Good morning. Today is Thursday, January 26th, and this is the time and place for the regularly scheduled Nevada Gaming Commission meeting for the month of January. If you would please rise and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Madam Secretary, has our agenda been posted in accordance with the open meeting law?
Yes, it has.
At this time, I would like to remind anyone coming to the podium to speak that we ask that you speak directly into the microphone and speak as clearly as possible, as this meeting is being transmitted electronically and is being transcribed. Madam Secretary, if we could proceed with our first agenda item, public comments.
This item is placed on the agenda to give the public an opportunity to comment on gaming-related matters.
Anyone who wishes to address the commission may do so at this time. Matters brought to our attention during public comment cannot be acted upon, but we are happy to hear comments of the public as well as my fellow commissioners. Comments by all will be limited to 3 minutes as a reasonable time, place, and manner restriction. If any of my fellow commissioners or myself ask questions of the public, the time needed to address those questions will not be held against those time constraints. If you have any handouts or copies of your comments to provide, please provide them to an enforcement agent who will take them from you and bring them to the dais. I will first go to Carson City. Is there anyone present in Carson City who wishes to make a public comment? Please step forward to the podium. There being no one, it appears, in Carson City. Good morning.
Hi, my name is Diamante Asbury, Diamanteasberry, here on behalf of the Culinary Union. We've spoken previously about Station Casino's mud lists. These were lists of workers prepared by management, requested by an executive vice president, indicating which workers were pro-management, pro-union, or don't know. When rehiring workers, it is against the law to discriminate based on union preference. The company started using mud lists in 2019. On June 13th, 2020, during the pandemic, the chief operating officer of Red Rock Resorts wrote to general managers, "Please send Phil and I your mud lists from Fiesta Rancho, Texas, Fiesta Henderson, and Palms. Also, please resend your open positions requested sheets." Why would the chief operating officer ask for mud lists and open position requests at the same time? 3 weeks earlier, on May 21st, 2020, the chief operating officer wrote to managers at closed stations properties, "We may need to hire additional IM team members to assist at the 6 open properties. Can I get Joel, Chris, and Jordan to review the full-time IM team members that were let go at your properties? We need a list of the most company-positive ones that we would want to offer a position at one of the 6. For what legitimate reason did Station Casinos create mud lists to keep track of which employees were pro-management and which employees were pro-union? And why would a chief executive request copies of mud lists along with lists of open positions that need to be filled? Again, it is illegal to take into consideration a worker's attitude towards the union when making decisions to hire, recall, or transfer workers. That's one reason why the federal government has issued a complaint against stations alleging violations of federal law. We believe that the use of mud lists violates the company's code of business conduct and ethics, and we are once again asking for a comprehensive investigation into the company. Thank you. And who is the enforcement officer that I hand these to?
He's coming.
My name is Brianna Carbajal, here on behalf of the Culinary Union, BRIANA-CARBAJAL. And I would like to read into the record a comment by a worker that was not able to make it today due to not feeling well. Mi nombre es María Espinosa. He trabajado para Palace Station en el departamento sanitario durante 18 años. Soy miembro del comité sindical. Hago saber que esta empresa no respeta mis derechos como empleada. Voy a trabajar incluso cuando no me siento bien. Tengo miedo de perder mi trabajo. Despidieron trabajadores durante la pandemia y ahora nos han vuelto a contratar a algunos de nosotros como nuevos empleados. Creo que algunos de los recontratados tienen un salario más bajo y no tienen su antigüedad. Cerraron 3 propiedades y sacaron a esos trabajadores de sus trabajos. Y en mi trabajo parece que los aumentos no se dan por igual. Queremos que nos ayude. Hemos trabajado duro y queremos algo mejor de la compañía. Gracias. English translation. My name is Maria Espinosa. I have worked for Palace Station in the sanitation department for 18 years. I am a committee member for the Culinary Union. I am making it known that this company does not respect my rights as a worker. I go to work even when I'm not feeling well. I am afraid I may lose my job. They terminated workers during the pandemic, and now they have rehired some of us as new employees. I believe some of these rehires are a lower salary and don't have their seniority. They closed 3 properties and put those workers out of their jobs. And in my job, it feels like raises are not given equally. We want you to help us. We've worked hard and we want better from the company. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there any other person present wishing to make public comment? All right, that will close our public comment section. Madam Secretary, the next item on our agenda is the approval of the prior month's dispositions.
Pursuant to NRS 241.035, this item is the consideration of the approval of the Nevada Gaming Commission disposition for December 2022 and the disposition for the special meeting held on December 16th.
Okay, I think each one of us has had the opportunity to review the disposition. If there are no questions or comments, I think it's in proper form for a motion.
Chair, I move to approve the prior month's disposition.
Any discussion? There being none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
And there are none opposed. Thank you. Madam Secretary, please read in the restricted consent items.
Excuse me, Chair. We
Yes.
need a motion to approve the special meeting disposition.
I also move to approve the special meeting disposition from the prior month.
Any discussion or comments or questions? There being none, all,
The special meeting of yesterday?
Prior month?
but last
Oh,
December.
okay, because I would have to recuse, okay.
Okay. So all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
And there are none opposed. Thank you for that. Madam Secretary, if you could please at this time read in the restricted consent items.
Your items on the restricted consent agenda this morning are items 4 through 9. The recommendation of the Gaming Control Board is for approval with conditions as noted on the agenda. I believe we have a recusal on these items.
Sorry, one moment. Yes, I need to recuse on restricted number 5. My husband, David Brown, is representing the applicant, and I must therefore recuse myself from voting on this matter. Thank you.
Okay, so I think it would be best to break that one out, and then we can address the others. So why don't we address item number 5 first?
Thank you, Chair. I move for approval of restricted item number 5 as read into the record by Madam Secretary and recommended by the Game Control Board.
Any discussion? Comments? There being none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
It would appear there are none opposed, and Commissioner Brown did not participate in the vote on this matter. And so is there a motion as to the 4, 6, 7, 8, and 9?
Yes, Madam Chair, I would also move for approval of consent item number restricted number 4, 6 through 9 as recommended by the Gaming Control Board and read by Madam Secretary.
Any discussion on the motion? There being none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
And it appears there are none opposed. Thank you. At this time, Madam Secretary, I believe that brings us to our non-restricted agenda items held out for discussion. If you would read in the non-restricted matter from the special board meeting.
Non-restricted number 5 are the applications of the Fred Dunn 1991 number 3 life interest settlement, the Fred Dunn 1991 number 1 life interest settlement, the F. Dunn 2007 family discretionary settlement, the Peter Eric Dunn 1991 number 4 life interest settlement, Peter Eric Dunn 1991 number 1 life interest settlement, and the P.E. Dunn 2007 family discretionary settlement for registration as a holding company and for finding of suitability as a trustee and/or beneficiary as noted on the agenda. It is also the applications of Betfred Group Limited for registration as an intermediary company and for finding of suitability as the 100% shareholder of Light Catch Limited. It is also the applications of Light Catch Limited for registration as an intermediary company and for finding of suitability as the 100% shareholder of Betfred International Holdings Limited. You also have the applications of Betfred International Holdings Limited for registration as an intermediary company and for finding of suitability as the 100% member of Betfred USA Sports LLC. It is also the applications of Betfred USA Sports LLC for registration as an intermediary company and for finding of suitability as the 100% member of Betfred USA Sports 2 LLC. You also have the applications of Betfred USA Sports 2 LLC for registration as an intermediary company and for licensure as the 100% member of Betfred Sports Nevada LLC. It is also the application of Mohegan Tribal Gaming Authority doing business as Mohegan Gaming and Entertainment for an amendment to their order of registration. You also have the application of MGNV LLC doing business as Mohegan Sun Casino Las Vegas for the addition of a racebook, sports pool, and off-track pari-mutuel race wagering, and the application of Betfred Sports Nevada LLC for licensure as a key employee as noted on the agenda. You also have the application for Betfred Sports Nevada LLC to receive a percentage of gaming revenue from the racebook and sports pool, including off-track pari-mutuel race wagering operated by MGNV LLC doing business as Mohegan Sun Casino Las Vegas. You also have the applications of Fred Dunn, Peter Eric Dunn, Nicola Dunn-Orell, Jacqueline Siddons, Peter Daniel Dunn, Leah Dunn Jackson, Deborah Lyon, Daniel Dunn, Mark Stebbings, Nicola Barr, Brian Bennett, and Louis D'Amico for finding of suitability as a manager, key executive, key employee, shareholder, director, and/or officer as noted on the agenda. Recommendation of the Gaming Control Board is for approval with conditions as noted on the agenda. I believe we have a disclosure and a recusal on this item.
Thank you, Madam Secretary, Madam Chair. I must recuse myself on this matter. Stan Johnson, Kevin Johnson are handling this matter of the law firm of Cohen Johnson, of which I'm a partner. I further met with representatives of Betfred prior to my appointment on the Gaming Commission. I have no pecuniary interest in this matter or the outcome of this matter, but nevertheless, based upon the ethics regulations of which I am charged with, I will be recusing and not participating. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good morning. I have a disclosure to make on this matter. MGNV LLC is adverse in an open matter. It is unrelated. It relates to a lease dispute for my client, MBLV, a client of Louis Roca, where I am a partner. I have no pecuniary interest in the outcome of these agenda items, and I do not believe the independence of judgment of a reasonable person in my position would be affected by the relationship described on the record, and I therefore intend to participate.
Morning.
Good morning, Chair Tagliati, members of the Commission, Madam Secretary. My name is Mark Rubenstein of the law firm of Reed, Rubenstein, and Bogatz, and I appear today on behalf of the Mohegan Tribal Gaming Authority and its non-restricted gaming licensee, MGNV LLC, doing business as Mohegan Sun Casino Las Vegas. What we propose to do today, if there are no objections, is to follow essentially the same roadmap we followed yesterday. Beginning with a brief presentation by Joe Hassan, who's the casino general manager of Mohegan Sun Casino. And then after Joe speaks and answers any questions you might have of him, we will turn the podium over to Stan Johnson, who will lead the Betfred presentation. And then following that presentation, it's my intent to return to the podium to discuss the conditions in the proposed revised order of restriction.
Yes, thank you.
Okay, but I would also like to, before I conclude my remarks, recognize the board staff for their work on this item, and in particular, commend Supervisor Matt Doyle, Deputy Chief Russell Teggio, and Chief Hoffman of the Investigations Division, and Chief Torgerson of the Enforcement Division for their work on this matter.
Thanks.
Thank you. Now I'll turn it over to Joe Hassan. Thank you.
Good morning.
Good morning. Joe Hassan, General Manager of Mohegan Sun Casino Las Vegas, also known as MGNV LLC. I certainly extend our greetings, Madam Chair, Commissioners, and Madam Secretary. My pleasure to be here today. Thank you for the opportunity to present. It's been a long road to get here. We opened the casino in March of 2021. Any number of delays found their way into a complicated, critical path, most notably COVID-19 and long distances between Betfred and the great state of Nevada. Pleased to be here nonetheless. The commitment between Betfred and Mohegan was initiated in 2020, and Betfred fulfilled all the obligations that they had contractually with Mohegan, and that included substantial funding of the improvement at the casino location of what I would call the brick and mortar of the sports book that we're here to talk about today. That fulfillment was timely, in good faith, and we've waited patiently as the casino operator to reach a day like today where we hopefully find our way to approval of operating the sports book. Most importantly, from Mohegan's perspective, is my commitment to the great state of Nevada, certainly to the board and to this commission, that we understand that Mohegan is the unrestricted licensee. We have the obligation to manage the book and run it in accordance with all the statutes, the regulations, and the requirements of the state of Nevada, the board, and this office. And I want you to know that that commitment is read into the record by me as someone who, for many, many years in Nevada, has had the privilege to hold the proper licenses to operate casinos. And I recognize that is a privileged license that is granted. And I want that in the record so that you can appreciate that I understand it and I take it to heart. Most importantly, in that regard, all of the employees of the proposed book will report directly to Mohegan, with one exception, and that is the manager assigned by Betfred. That manager will have a direct reporting relationship to me, although the manager will be directly employed by Betfred. And organizationally, the relationship between the operating personnel of Betfred, and that includes their chief operating officer in the United States, as well as their risk traders and compliance officials on the Betfred organization, will have a direct line to me as described in the organization chart materials that we provided to the board. That open line of communication is designed to allow me to fulfill the obligations that I'm describing today, where again, I recognize that it is Mohegan Sun Casino's obligation to fulfill all the suitability requirements of operating the book. I say that again to make sure that I have an opportunity to tell you face to face that we appreciate that obligation and we will fulfill it. As I describe all that, I certainly remain available for questions at any time. If there are any questions, I can take them now or return to the podium when it is appropriate. Otherwise, I will turn it over to my colleague Stan Johnson, outside counsel for Betfred.
Well, what I would suggest, because I believe we've had the opportunity to either listen to or watch the meeting from yesterday, is to go ahead and continue on with your presentation. And as questions arise about specifics, we will ask them.
Thank you so much. I'll turn it over to Stan Johnson.
Madam Chair, I have just one quick question for him. Okay. Go ahead. Okay. Thank you. Thank you for being here, Mr. Hassan. We appreciate you, being here yesterday and today. I just had a quick question with regards to the built out. It looked like it was completed. Is that correct?
That is correct.
So does it currently just have is it closed off right now, roped off?
I describe it as illuminated. The screens are on. We are ready and willing to accommodate guests. In fact, guests sit in the book today to watch whatever it is that we display sports-wise on the many, many video monitors. We could not take a bet today if we were permitted to, because not all equipment for tendering transactions is yet installed, but it is in progress and it is timely to, we hope, anticipate in time for the big game.
Okay, perfect. With regards to that, I just had a quick question because on the video that was shown yesterday, it showed a depiction of the book, and I wasn't sure if it was an architectural rendering or the actual premises, but it showed the signage on it just said Betfred Sports or Sports Book. It was a very quick snippet. What are the markings on the actual book?
The sign that you saw is one that would not conform today to the condition that has been described by the board and expected by the commission. We will modify that upon approval, assuming that the condition as currently worded is indeed finalized today. We will modify that signage to conform to the condition. So what it will say once we modify it is something to the effect of Betfred at Mohegan Sun Sportsbook.
Okay. No problem. That caught my eye and I just wanted to confirm what the current status of it was. So I appreciate you.
Commissioner, I should add that We recognize in the casino, no differently than we operate slot machines that are made by many manufacturers and providers that are authorized to do business in Nevada. Those slot machines oftentimes have the name of the manufacturer on them, but should a guest confront a dispute, a condition they don't understand, something that creates any friction at the point of sale, we know that the first obligation is to come to us as the casino operators. Mohegan takes the first step in terms of trying to resolve any problem, any friction. To the extent that we don't do it satisfactorily, we know that a phone call and communication needs to take place to the board so that they can launch the appropriate investigative processes. We will take the exact same approach in the book. We know from rote how that process should work in Nevada. And we want to make it clear to the betting public that the book is operated by Mohegan Sun Casino, managed by Betfred.
Understood. And I have no problem and no doubt that you're going to do that. Obviously, the purpose of that proposed condition is to avoid any confusion for the clients. And I view an actual enclosed, somewhat enclosed premise is different than a slot machine. So if it said powered by or operate, whatever language you choose, I don't have a problem with that. But just to have a freestanding book that only says the name of Betfred, I just had a concern because of the potential for confusion.
Understood, and we will comply appropriately.
Thank you. Just a brief question structurally about the interplay of who's reporting to whom. So it's my understanding from the presentation yesterday that, by way of example, you'll have the cashiers and ticket writers and supervisors at the sports book, and they will be employed by the Mohegan Las Vegas. And then we have the director of the sports book who will report to Betfred, correct?
That is correct, with one caveat.
Yes.
On an organization chart, although that director of the sports book is employed directly by Betfred in their capacity, hopefully proved today, as a key employee of Mohegan, the reporting relationship structurally as drawn in an organization chart will show that that director reports to both on a solid line, the chief operating officer of Betfred and to my office.
Okay, and so I was interested in having clarification on that point. So it will be the parallel reporting to both. And if there's an internal structure that results in a conflict, how does that get resolved? That one person that is employed by one is a key employee and then reports to the other as well.
While I can't envision today an irresolvable conflict, let's hypothetically assume that there is one. Ultimately, as the unrestricted casino operator and the license holder, recognizing that Betfred is only, and I say only in quotes, in the capacity of a key employee, I would manage that dynamic in exactly the same manner as I would manage any other direct report of mine. It would be with appropriate listening ears and appropriate judgment and consideration. But ultimately, that buck will stop at my office's desk.
Because it's your license and you have the responsibility. I just wanted to
Absolutely
make that
correct.
clear. And I have no further questions. Thank you for the concise
Thank you.
presentation.
Again, I'll turn it over to Stan
And
Johnson.
Chair, I'm sorry, may I ask a follow-up question?
Sure.
With respect to the employees that are the ticket writers and such that are employed by the property themselves, I understand that you're being, the cost of that is being reimbursed to you by Betfred. Is that correct?
That is ultimately correct. When we take into consideration the operating aspects of the book, oversimplified, the relationship is that Betfred is ultimately today, with good fortune today, licensed in the capacity of a key employee who can participate in ultimate profits of the book as earned by the unrestricted license holder, Mohegan. When there are direct operating costs associated with the book, Mohegan will turn to Betfred saying that those direct operating expenses need to be settled up with Mohegan as part of the contractual relationship between the parties. And ultimately, if there are profits remaining, there is participation thereafter.
I understand. The question was actually much simpler than that. For those employees that are employed by you, are they going to be treated, although you're being reimbursed, are they going to be treated like any other property employee in respect to benefits and raises and that type of thing?
Absolutely, yes. They are Mohegan's employees, I view that as my employees or team members as we call them, they will be subject to exactly the same policies, procedures, compensation, benefits, matters that apply to all of the team members at Mohegan Sun Casino.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you so much. And again, I'll turn it over to Stan Johnson.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good morning, Chair Tagliati, Commissioner Solis Rainey, Commissioner Brown. I'm Stan Johnson of the law firm of Cohen Johnson. It is my pleasure and honor to introduce this item, which represents a process that began more than 2 years ago when Betfred and the other applicants filed their applications for suitability to be licensed as a key employee and participate in the management of the race and sports book located at Mohegan Sun Casino. With your approval, this will allow one of the largest sports betting companies in the United Kingdom as well as the world to initially enter the Nevada market. Also with me today is Randall Sayer, gaming consultant to the applicants. In addition, there are a number of other applicants, representatives, and employees that I would like to introduce a little later. This application process was initiated shortly after the COVID-19 pandemic began. This was an unprecedented challenge combined with the size and international scope of the Betfred Group, which presented a very challenging environment through which this investigation had to proceed. I would first like to recognize the great efforts and diligence of the investigative team, especially Matt Doyle, supervisor, and Carl Hoffman, chief. I can affirmatively state that being involved with Betfred's licensing in other jurisdictions, the process in Nevada is truly the standard for the industry and was a learning experience for everyone involved. Throughout this entire process, the board has been professional, attentive, extremely thorough, and I would also like to thank members of Betfred's own legal and compliance team who took primary responsibility for providing all of the information to the investigators. Here today is Stephen Lundgren, in-house counsel to the Betfred Group, and Paul Krasanik, head of corporate finance for the Betfred Group. I would also like to especially thank the chair for the waiver of the appearances of the Doan children. And if it suits the chair, we have an affirmative presentation, but I wanted to inquire, since you saw it yesterday, do you want us to go through the presentation again, or should we go more to questions?
Well, unless you want to see the video again, I think we could skip the video.
I just watched it
I just watched it too.
yesterday.
Yeah, so
It was a wonderful presentation,
sure.
but it is fresh on my mind.
Okay.
So I think unless I'm missing something, you're okay with jumping to questions? Or do you want to have them go forward with their modified presentation, or?
Um,
I don't
I
think we
don't-
need the
yeah.
slides because we couldn't see you because all we could see is the slides on YouTube, if we weren't here. And so,
I'm fine with an abridged presentation. But I literally just watched this yesterday
Mhm.
and
I was going to say the same. I'm comfortable with no presentation, but I would like introductions just because we couldn't see the individuals. We
Mhm.
could see principally the slides and presentation.
Yes, I was going to suggest that I introduce the applicants so you can see them. First, I'd like to introduce Fred Doan, shareholder. Fred, if you would stand up. Of course, Fred is the Fred in Betfred. So Fred is a shareholder, trustee, and director of the Betfred Group. Thank you, Fred. Yeah. Peter Eric Doan. You can come up. Morning.
good morning.
Shareholder and trustee. Joanne Whitaker,
morning.
CEO of Betfred Group, who is not on today's agenda, but has an application pending that will be acted on at a later date. Nicola Barr, CFO of the Betfred Group, as well as certain holding companies, one of the managers of Betfred Sports USA and its subsidiaries. Mark Stebbins, COO of the Betfred Group, Director of certain holding companies, and Manager of Betfred Sports USA and its subsidiaries. Brian Bennett, who is the COO of U.S. Operations, and Lou D'Amico, who is head of U.S. Trading. Applicants, as was already mentioned, but I'll just for the record indicate applicants not present whose appearances were waived: Jacqueline Ann Sidones, Peter Daniel Doan, Nicola Ann Doan Orell, Lee Ann Doan Jackson, Daniel Peter Doan, Deborah Ann Lyon, and regarding the estate of Maureen Doan, Anthony David Comber, Mark Andrew Comber, and Audrey Cox. Finally, we have some individuals that aren't applicants, but I'd like to introduce them to the commission. We have Cynthia Hayes, who is the Vice President of Compliance for Betfred Sports USA. I think AJ Burnett is back there. He is Chair of the U.S. Compliance Committee. Stephen Longden, as I mentioned before, in-house counsel for the Betfred Group, and Paul Krzanik, head of corporate finance for the Betfred Group. So with that, if it's the commission's pleasure, we can entertain questions at this time.
I'll start. Who would be the person most knowledgeable to speak to the Acosta lawsuit?
I think that would be Fred Doan.
Good morning.
Good morning. Thank you. So one of the questions I had about this this lawsuit was, how is it that it came to the attention of the authorities to do this investigation, other than the fact that there was a? Can you elaborate on that for me?
Yeah, Acosta is a small insurance company that I personally own. It was in dispute with one of the policy holders. The insurance company that I owned thought there was no case to answer. There was no claim. It was disputed by a learned counsel in the UK. It went to court and we lost the case. The day after we lost the case, we settled it to the tune of about £1 million. It was just, I would describe it as a commercial dispute that was settled. It wasn't on my radar because I don't run the company. I'm just the shareholder in the company. I didn't really know about it until after the case. It was no big deal for us, and it was settled.
So can I ask who was running? Because in my mind, there's a difference between the cost of doing business and a lawsuit related to coverage and those kinds of things for an insurance company versus, an investigation revealing, the failures related to forecasting of premium limits, internal control systems, solvency, capital requirements, that kind of thing. So I'm not talking about the lawsuit. I'm talking about
the company.
Yes.
Okay. It's a very small company. It's a very small business. Been in operation for 6-7 years. As I say, it's a small business. It employs 2 or 3 people, and it was just a dispute with the client. We didn't think there was a case to answer for, and it was one of those things. It was a case of opinion, and our opinion was wrong, and we settled it.
So
we're talking about the recent
Investigation
and the additional authorization.
Could you speak into the microphone?
Do you want me to talk about that?
Yeah,
one?
okay.
She's just talking to him.
Oh, okay.
Sorry.
If you want to speak to it, you can. Whoever.
Yeah.
I mean,
okay.
basically, what I'm getting at is,
Yeah, I understand the issue.
you have an insurance company for which he is a major shareholder.
Yes.
That is presumably engaging in contracts to provide insurance for what we were told were thousands of cases. Perhaps it's a mass tort or something, but I'm being told in my investigation materials that we're talking about thousands of presumably plaintiffs and their costs, and that resulted in this subsequent determination, hey, you're not assessing your premiums, you're not, and so I'm thinking to myself as I'm hearing 2 or 3 employees in a company that's undertaking coverage in significant numbers of litigation plaintiffs, that seems unusual to me and overreaching potentially.
Did you hear yesterday the structure that we've now implemented? So Fred has
Yes.
always managed his investments on a very informal basis. Fred wasn't running a caster. The gentleman running it was called Keith Waddell. So
He's not there anymore.
He's not there anymore. We asked him to move on.
And so without being concerned about the labor matter of his departure, what
That was free. He retired.
okay, who took over and what is the reporting or what change in business has occurred, if any, of this company related to, learning something from that lawsuit and investigation? Let's phrase it that way.
Okay.
Do you know?
Setting the lawsuit aside, I'm not familiar with that. My understanding of the reason why that they're under the additional scrutiny from the Gibraltar regulator is because in Gibraltar you have to provide your upfront 3-year business forecast and you regularly report on your solvency ratio, which directly links to the cases that you're insuring. They doubled the growth of the business, but without having the foresight or following the correct procedures to work with their regulator and report that doubling of growth. So the scrutiny was directly linked to over forecasting, not keeping the regulator abreast. We maintained that as a family, we supported to provide the additional capital into the company to manage the solvency ratio, so the solvency stayed at the acceptable level. So I have met with the Gibraltar insurance regulator since Keith Waddell's departure, and we've agreed with them that they're satisfied now with the way the organisation's being run. We have a new CF. He started as the Chief Financial Officer. He was promoted into the position of Chief Executive. I have quarterly calls with the insurance regulator in Gibraltar, and we're comfortable, and he's comfortable with the situation. We have an ongoing issue where we believed that we had a reinsurance contract in place with a Bermudan firm, and there's a problem with that reinsurance agreement. So there is satisfactory contracts in place, and we're about to go into arbitration to resolve that issue. But that's a separate issue that the regulator wants to keep us under the intense supervision until that matter's resolved, which we agree is the right course of action. And if needed, we may, if the reinsurance contract isn't valid, we as a family will need to put more capital into that company, which we have agreed with the regulator we would be willing to do.
So from what I'm hearing then, the arbitration is related to a claim of breach of contract for the reinsurance against the
Yes.
Bermuda.
Yes.
And so I guess my follow-up to that would be, and I appreciate he's not running the company.
No.
But it's one of his companies.
Yes,
As far as
agreed.
shareholder, and
Yeah.
so I'm, just the summary of the suit to a reasonable person involved in litigation
Yes.
and insurance matters
Yes.
would raise a flag
Yes.
that company is potentially doing business that's or in over their head, if you will, not just on funding and but just on the concept of how they're doing business going. And I was just curious, besides Mr. Wardell's retirement, have there been any other changes, or is that something that is the new employee's task?
We've appointed an additional non-exec. One of the non-execs that was in position at the time has since moved on and we've replaced. And we've got a new independent chair who's non-exec as well, whereas previously the chair was Keith Waddell. So we've put in better governance at the group structure level, as well as Fred no longer informally managing these investments, because Fred wouldn't have had the awareness
of the impact to Betfred Group and the notification requirements that are needed, especially working in the US. So we've done a combination of strengthening the governance within the insurance company itself, alongside putting the Dome Family Office in place, where myself and my colleague Paul Kerzanek, who you recently introduced to, we now meet with the organisation on a quarterly basis. I also meet with the non-execs typically twice a year as a minimum, or at any time they need to escalate anything to the family, and we have the correct reporting lines in place within Betfred Group to ensure that yourselves and any other regulators would be kept abreast.
Great, thank you very much.
Thank you.
I don't know.
I'm so sorry. Could you please identify yourself?
Oh, I'm sorry. Joanne Whitaker, Chief Executive of Betfred Group and Director of the Dome Family Office.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So I don't know if anyone had any additional questions about that particular matter, but I thought there's certain things that would be directed to you, and perhaps we should open that up now for my colleagues to ask any additional questions you may have about anything specific. I know a lot of it was covered yesterday, but we have different questions a lot of the times, often.
I had similar questions on the Costa insurance issue, but those questions have been answered by your inquiries. With respect to the TradeFred matter, could you maybe take a minute and explain the due diligence that was undertaken before you entered into that business? You spoke of it yesterday a bit, but I got my understanding, I don't think comports with the information that we have in the report, and I suspect that might be misunderstanding on my part.
I'll go right back to the very beginning with this one. And a friend of mine said that I know a guy who I think you should meet. I've known the family for the last 7 years, and they're an honest family, hardworking, and I think there might be a good investment here for you. I met the guy. I liked him. I did investigations into him, both through my accountants, my lawyers. I had checks done. He lived in Israel at the time. I had checks done on him there, and he went through every check that we put up there for him. He answered, and he came through with flying colours. We started the business, and we slowly built it up over a 3-year period. Increased staff. It seemed to be going well. Everything that I was told happened. I had monthly meetings either on the phone or face to face with him, and I was really pleased with the way the business was going. As I say, he hit every milestone without question. Then we got a problem in November 19. We made an application to Pennsylvania for a betting license. We filled the forms in, everything was fine. There was no problems with TradeFred, as we knew. On the 18th of December, I was in a meeting in Manchester, and a phone call came through late at night to say, we've got a problem with TradeFred in Australia. It was a complete bolt out of the blue for me. We had no idea it was coming. And within 3 weeks, with Christmas and New Year intervening there, we'd made a decision. I didn't like what I was hearing, and reputation was more important to me than TradeFred or money. We decided to close the business down. So we, over the 3-week period, a decision was made, and we closed the business down, and that was it. As far as I know, it just went off my radar after that.
Thank you for that, Mr. Dunn. Just stepping back a little bit, when you were describing the beginning, when the opportunity came to you, you said you did due diligence with your accountants and your attorneys.
Yeah.
Was that due diligence informal, or was there any documentation of that?
I never saw documentation, but I was told he'd got a clear bill of health. I'm sure that there would have been documentation there.
Looks like somebody's coming up behind you to maybe add.
Could you state your name for the court reporter, please? I'm told she can't really see anybody on her video.
Sure, Paul Kazanek. So just in terms of the due diligence that was done on the outset when Fred was considering going into the TradeFred business, Fred interviewed Alex Mishiev Fred got a trusted chartered accountant and tax advisor to interview Alex as well. He came back with a clean bill of health. Alex was an Israeli resident at the time. We got criminal record check from Israel, and we had a lawyer give him a reference as well. And we've got all documents to support that.
And let me just, this isn't, I'm not trying to trick you or misunderstand, but our information indicated that Betfred was asked to provide information regarding the due diligence and that it was never provided because it was done informally. But it sounded like it was more formal in the presentation yesterday. So that's why I was asking, was there actual documentation that you could have provided and didn't understand was being requested, or why wasn't that information provided to the agents?
I'm not aware that we withheld any due diligence from the agents. It was there and it's available and still is available.
Okay. All right. Well, and again, that's the reason for my inquiries, because our materials indicated they requested it and that it was never provided because he did the due diligence in face-to-face meetings, which sounded inconsistent with the fact that he, got these reports from accountants, attorneys, and such. So I just wanted clarification on that.
So some of that was informal in terms of Fred's interview, the interview
Of
with the
course.
chartered accountant, the reference from a former colleague. But as part of the application to be licensed in CISEC in Cyprus, we needed to get the lawyer's reference from Israel and the criminal records checks. But
So for
that was done as standard.
Okay. So if our agents wanted to take a look at that, that due diligence would be available to them.
Absolutely.
Thank you. I don't have any other questions.
I have a very basic question, and whoever is able to answer it, I would appreciate it. Can you explain to me the reason, the genesis for the investigation in the first place relating to TradeFred by the Australia Securities and Investments Commission? It hasn't been crystallized for me yet. Can somebody just explain that to me, please?
Name again, please.
Paul Kazanek. So TradeFred operated in 3 licensed jurisdictions. It had a license in Vanuatu, one in Cyprus with CISEC, and in Australia it had what was known as a corporate authorized representative license, which basically meant it worked alongside a company called USG in Australia, who had a license with ASIC. ASIC brought a claim in December 19 against three companies. USG was the first defendant, TradeFred the second defendant as a corporate authorized representative, and there was a third defendant that wasn't related to Betfred or anything else. I think that was called Maxi EFX. So there was a detailed document that ASIC filed with the federal court in Australia, and the general gist of the claims made against TradeFred was along the lines of aggressive selling. There was some other claims brought about USG and of Maxi, but the ones levied at TradeFred was just about aggressive selling techniques.
Thank you for that clarification. And is somebody able to tell me, was the receivership voluntary or was it court ordered as a result of a motion or filing?
It was voluntary. So Right AU was a subsidiary in Australia, and in March 2020, that entered a members' voluntary liquidation.
All right. And the trial is still set for February 13th of 2023. Is that correct?
To be honest, we've been somewhat removed from the communications in Australia. Sorry, Paul Kazanek. We've been somewhat removed from the communications coming from Australia ever since that was passed to the liquidator in March 2020. But from public records that we follow, just to keep abreast of the situation, we see there is what's called a claims hearing set for February of this year, and we understand that the claims hearing is to determine if there is any proven liability, from the customers, who has the liability, whether that be Right AU as the corporate authorized representative or USG as the license holder.
All right, thank you. And then last question about this specific topic. Is the investigation by the Australia Securities and Investment Commission concluded? Is it still underway? Just specifically what's happened with that? Because it doesn't seem like it's been wrapped up and I might have missed it.
originally there was 5 claimants on the papers. There was the 3 companies, sorry, Paul Kazanik. There was the 3 companies that were mentioned before, and there was 2 individuals. One was a director of Bright AU, the Trade Fred subsidiary in Australia, and a director of the third party. The 2 directors have been in front of ASIC, and those claims have been resolved. And the case against the 3 companies, from our understanding of public records, is still ongoing.
Okay, thank you. I don't have any further questions about the Trade Fred Holdings issue. I'm satisfied with that. And I note that it was not disclosed. Is that correct? Was this one of them that was not disclosed in addition to the Acosta?
Yeah, originally it wasn't disclosed.
I think, excuse me, Stan Johnson. I think one of the issues there was that after it was placed in liquidation, it kind of was off the radar screen as far as Betfred was concerned. And as Mr. Dunn indicated, I think what he was trying to explain is the forms and the applications for Pennsylvania went in at a time when they had no knowledge of this. And when the forms for Nevada were submitted, most of that information was carried over from the Pennsylvania forms. And so it was kind of an oversight that was not amended and updated, just to make that clear.
I recall that yesterday, the cut and paste
Yes.
warning from the chair. I recall. Also, just going back quickly to the Acosta European issue, it's my understanding that the problems that were raised relating to the solvency capital requirement being off, I think it was at 93%, it had to be at 120. I thought that was remedied, that deficiency was remedied within like 24 days. So it seems like swift action was taken there.
Yes, solvency is there now. There's no problem with solvency.
And that was resolved very quickly after you were
Yes,
put on notice.
yeah.
And then the
That was
other.
Mr. Dunn, for the record.
I'm sorry.
That's okay.
Sorry, thank you. And then it's also my understanding that the GFSC chose not to seek enforcement proceedings against Acosta, notwithstanding the number of issues that were raised, including falling below the required regulatory standards. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay. Thank you.
Did you have additional questions or?
I did not. They did a very thorough job yesterday of going through the non-disclosure, and I'm satisfied, with the changes that the company has made to prevent the possibility of future non-disclosures in the future. Obviously that's a point of contention for us because the agents can't do their jobs if they can't get to the information. So, because of all your efforts, I'm comfortable at this point with the explanation that's been given. And I didn't have any other questions. I mean, I think you've have exemplary procedures now in respect to getting information and responding when asked. So I don't have anything further. Thank you.
Commissioner Brown?
Are we only talking at this time about the non-disclosure areas of concern, or may I discuss at this time questions relating to the disclosed areas, including PDHL
I
Limited?
consider the floor completely
Okay,
open.
good. I didn't know if we were segregating it into issues. So if somebody could explain, whoever's here who can speak to this specifically in connection with PDHL Limited, why was it denied permission by the Federal Conduct Authority to provide debt management services to consumers? That was not clear from the record before me.
Hi, Joanne Whitaker. PDHL was offering debt management services and debt advice in the UK. That was an area that was regulated by the Office of Fair Trading, and it was fairly light touch regulation. There was a transition into the Financial Conduct Authority, which took about 18 months to 2 years. The organisation just wasn't set up for FCA regulation. It wasn't able to meet the required standard. Fred was an investor in that organisation. I can't remember the exact ownership. I think he was about a third of the ownership. Again, not involved on a day-to-day basis, but the business couldn't survive under the FCA requirements. So there was no problem in terms of it met all the requirements of the OFT, but the FCA were not willing to provide a license.
Understood. And then there was some discussion yesterday about Fred Doan's handling of the children's finances and their lack of knowledge. And just trying to understand how that came to light. I don't think it was a situation where the children commenced any litigation. I don't understand what triggered. I don't know if it was this investigation here as part of the.
No, I think it's probably a bit overstated that the
Yes.
children had no knowledge. The children knew completely that their father was investing and that it was their dividends. It's just they didn't have they didn't take an active interest in what the investments were and how they were performing because they relied on Fred to do that. I'm not sure
But
if
they knew
Fred.
that the distributions were being used at the
Yes,
direction
completely.
of Fred to try
Yes.
to not overspoil them, which I think is a very sweet lesson, and just to try to maximize the value of the distributions. Is that correct?
Yeah, they're not business people. They stay-at-home mums, and Peter is involved in property, but they're not actively involved. And we've now put in procedures where I meet with them. I'm trying every 2 months is the current schedule. So we've done our first meeting this year. Next one's scheduled for March. But we are now running them through all of the active loans, running through what each of the businesses do and any major updates.
I do see the interests of the family are very varied, everywhere from midwifery, which is fascinating to me, to like cafes or restaurants.
Yeah.
And then I also commend the work of Leanne Doan Jackson that she's doing with Fidelity Limited. I think it relates to family-owned companies specializing in childcare vouchers.
Yeah, that's
for families in need.
That's my company. Yeah, so Lee and I work together on that one. But yeah, the family, like I say, they're not actively involved in any of the commercial ventures, but they are now taking an active interest in these investments.
And the record bears that out. So I appreciate the clarification on that. I just wanted to touch on a big ticket item that I view as important, just to make sure the controls that have been in place since the issue that related to the UK Gambling Commission's pet-free fine of 3.25 million. I think that was dollars, not pounds.
It was, no, that's dollars.
Okay, that's the dollars.
Yes,
That's
sorry,
what
I just
have.
had to calculate
Nope,
in my head then.
understood. Thank you. And I think there were some issues about addressing the expectations of the anti-money laundering policies and regulations. And if you could just speak to what was done after this fine came into existence and how things have improved since in terms of training and any other safekeeping or
Yeah,
any other.
The audit happened prior to my appointment, but we put an action plan in place very quickly. They'd completed 90% of the action plan within 4 weeks. The business is continually under review. It's a very challenging regulatory environment at the moment whilst we wait a government review of the UK Gambling Act. Betfred has accepted the findings of the regulator, both in the Petfrey case and in the current Donbros case, which relates to our retail estate. We urgently await clarity of the future landscape. We're in a difficult environment where customers do not want to provide the detailed evidence of affordability that's needed in the UK, payslips, bank statements, tax returns. It's a difficult climate, but we accept the findings, and my view of our main findings on the most recent case with the retail estate is that we had policies in place, but they weren't effective and the staff weren't properly trained, and we didn't have the correct quality assurance. I am comforted that there were actually no criminal cases or there was no money laundering proven, but the risk was there and we have to be alive to the risk.
Understood. And then there was one troubling instance that I just wanted to discuss in terms of what's been done since to remediate internally the issues of preventing the larger levels of high velocity spend on new customers. There was one, I understand, that opened an account and within 1 day, I think he was allowed to lose $79,000 in 10 hours. Can you talk to me about what's been instituted in terms of preventing something like that from happening again?
We've implemented what we would determine hard stop now. So if a customer, we've always had measures in place to prevent that behaviour, but we now have hard stops. If a customer hits a loss level of £15,000
in a 1.5 or 5.0?
1.5, sorry. 1.5 in a 365-day period, they will not be able to put another bet on, which in our previous policies, we would allow the customers to continue to bet and look at the behaviour indicators that were apparent on the day. and there was probably as well compliance weren't independent enough from the operational team. So we'll make sure that there's clear separation now so that compliance cannot be overruled by operations.
Thank you for that clarification. I also note it's my understanding that Pet Free repaid the victim in some of the embezzlement funds issues, a substantial amount, and also has helped causes related to gambling problems as well. So
that's part of our standard practice.
Okay. Well, I think you've addressed the concerns that weren't clear to me yesterday, just in terms of elucidating the record and making it clear to make sure that these issues have been addressed and won't repeat themselves.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I just have a question about, I did get this from yesterday's meeting, but since it came up just now, I just wanted to talk about the problem gambling and the support for, that your company and acknowledges that as an issue. And there was a reference yesterday to, I think, $100,000 of charitable contributions and to your partners, charities of interest and that kind of thing. Any of that in Nevada related to problem gambling?
Sorry, I don't recall the $100,000. We gave some examples of charitable giving that Betfred Group has given in the wider family. Philanthropy is an important part of the ethics and values of our organisation. We haven't yet established a Nevada charitable partner. My colleague Brian may be able to give some details, but we do it in every territory. So in South Africa, we're doing feeding in local schools because we're in some of the most deprived areas of South Africa. So we feed local school children. We are funding, I believe it's 100 breast cancer operations. That's a big campaign we're doing at the moment. So it's really important to the family that we support our local communities, and we have every intention of doing that in Nevada. Would you like to hear from Brian?
Well, let me ask council, did I not hear $100,000 yesterday?
You did.
Okay.
Stan Johnson, where that came from, there was a differentiation between charitable things that had already taken place in the UK and South Africa. And then Brian Bennett had explained that in the time that Betfred has been operating in the US with other jurisdictions that have been approved, there's been the $100,000 of charitable work and contributions, but he can explain that a little clearer.
Thank you.
Good morning, Brian Bennett. I'm the Chief Operating Officer of Betfred USA. Yesterday was the amount of money so far that we've donated from the U.S. perspective has been roughly $100,000, little over. And typically we've embraced the charities that our partners are involved in. Locally, it's important for us to be involved locally, so we defer to them. So our casino, media, and sports partners, we've relied on them to bring charitable causes to our attention. Here in Nevada specifically, we haven't done anything yet for problem gaming. We are a member of the National Council for Problem Gaming, but we have not yet started our charitable activities here in Nevada just because we haven't actually started business here. We're still in the growth phase.
Understood. I'm not taking you to
Sure.
task. I'm just asking, is that a plan going forward?
Absolutely. I think a testament.
Nevada.
Absolutely. A testament to the Doan family is that charity is sort of at the heart. Charitable giving is at the heart of Betfred and always has been. We anticipate bringing that legacy over here as well. We recently hired a director of people and culture. She started in October. Part of her task, obviously, is traditional human resources and things of that nature. But she's also been tasked with leading our charitable giving efforts here in Nevada and across the United States.
So you're going to give her this little snippet of the meeting? And say, "Don't
Absolutely.
forget."
Absolutely. She's already brought a short list to my attention, and we anticipate starting those efforts shortly.
Well, I appreciate that. Thank you. Are there any other questions or comments?
I didn't have any other questions. I did have a couple comments, particularly to Mr. Fred Dunn and just the incredible legacy he's built. I think that you're going to be a wonderful partner for the Nevada community, and we appreciate you investing in our community by opening an office here and providing jobs here in the magnitude that has been done to date, and which I know you have indicated you intend to grow. So the how far you've come with from where you started is just an amazing story. So I really want to commend you for that. I too appreciate your efforts to not spoil your children. I think it's important that children make their own way and find their own passions without the burden, if you will, of having too much available to them. So I appreciate that. Other than that, I mean, I'm happy to support this application. All of the backgrounds were impeccable, and you know, it's businesses like you that we need in the state. I think you're going to do great things here, and I look forward to having you as part of our community.
Before I hear from, we hear from Commissioner Brown, I would also state that I support your applications. I think, you know, in addition to everything that you just heard, we deal with a lot of people who are doing business all over the world. And, you know, this process is not easy, nor is it simple. And we ask a lot of hard questions. And sometimes the way those questions are answered are almost defensive or, you know, just not handled in a way that speaks to your character, the way you handle those questions, and the fact that you're an open book, as is everybody on your team. You accept responsibility for mistakes, you move forward, you make changes, exactly what regulators like to see. And so just being mindful that, you know, the cut and paste comment of our chair, I mean, the magnitude of your business interests, you know, I appreciate, and you're not involved in all of them. So you personally, I take no issue with that. Things weren't just exactly perfect, but for the team, no cutting and pasting. And with that, I'm going to support these applications. Commissioner Brown.
Thank you. I echo these sentiments. I'm just delighted to meet all of you. I mean, when I watched the video yesterday and the presentation and everybody coming up, it was just a wonderful presentation. And I'm happy to have the abridged version here today, just to get to meet all of you. I think your Genesis story is just beautiful. You know, you started back in 1967 with the family business, so to speak. And I love that you bet on the World Cup and put it all there. And look at you now. I mean, you've come such a far way. And I think it speaks volumes when I look at the people you've surrounded yourself with over the years, and it feels like people have been with you for decades. You're your family now. So it feels like it's a real family business, and your accomplishments are something you should be proud of with your brother and everyone else that works with you and builds your empire and has created a beautiful legacy. So I'm honored to meet you and your team and your family, and I 100% support your applications. And I'm pleased that you'll be joining us here in Nevada and finally getting licensed in the state of Nevada and growing our business here in the state at the gold standard.
So at this time, unless there's any.
He wants to say something.
I'm sorry, I was looking away from you. I apologize.
I can't believe the words you just said to me. It really gets me. We are a family business. We treat all our staff like family. In Africa, in the UK, and we're the same in America. I'm lost for words with you. Thank you.
Well, you are welcome. With that said, at this point, I was going to ask one of my colleagues if there are no additional questions or comments, if one of them has a motion to make. And
do we want to split this up from, do we need to hear from Mr. Rubenstein first?
Well, I guess we could.
I just wanted to put on the record that we have no problem with the conditions as stated on the record yesterday. And we also approved draft number 2 of the 5th revised order dated January 4th, 2023.
I figured nothing changed overnight, but thank you for stating it for the record.
That is correct. Thank you.
You didn't wake up this morning and say, wait.
Sometimes I do, but not this morning.
Okay, perfect.
Thank you. With that, Chair, I'm prepared to make a motion if
yes,
you're ready for that.
Thank you.
Okay. I would move for approval of non-restricted item number 5 as read into the record by Madam Secretary, and with all of the conditions and as stated in the recommendation by the Game Control Board, subject to the order registration draft number 2 for the Mohegan, is it the Mohegan
Tribal Gaming Authority.
MGMB or is it?
No, the draft number 2 order for the
Yes.
Mohegan Tribal Gaming Authority.
Apologies. Can I just incorporate that?
Yes, you can.
Okay, perfect.
By reference.
Thank you. And with that, is there anything else?
No, you have it.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so there being a proper motion before us, is there any additional comment or questions discussion, excuse me, before we vote? There being none, all in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
And there are none opposed. The record should reflect Commissioner Cohen did not, Vice Chair Cohen did not participate in the discussion or vote on this matter.
Thank you very much for your time and attention.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
Thank you and good luck.
Sir? Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Oh,
You're a legend.
pleased to have you.
Thank you for coming.
Hello. Hey, welcome. Good to see you. Out of retirement. I'm the same thing. I tried to retire. That didn't work out. You're back.
I made the men cry.
What'd you say?
Madam Secretary, please read in non-restricted number 1.
Non-restricted number 1 is the application of Nancy Dyfick for temporary licensure as a personal representative of the estate of Bruce Douglas Dyfick as noted on the agenda. The recommendation of the Gaming Control Board is for approval with conditions as noted on the agenda.
Hi, thank you for your patience. How are you?
Great to be here. Dennis Gutwald with the law firm of McDonald Carano. With your permission, I'll give a brief affirmative presentation regarding where we started, where we're at, where we're going, and
Perfect.
all right, great. Bruce Dyfick was Nancy Dyfick's husband. He owned 31% of Lucky Silver Gaming, which in turn owned 2 non-restricted casinos, the Lucky Club and Silver Nugget, together with a restricted location, the Golden Tiki. Bruce died in 2019 tragically, and before he had died, he had invested in a casino and lost a lot of money. The estate was, his estate he left was deeply in debt. Nancy applied for and was approved by the Nevada Gaming Commission as a temporary personal representative of the estate back in 2021. This application is to renew that approval to get approved again as a temporary representative of the estate. Lucky Silver is managed by Jeffrey Shore and Jeffrey Fine and Seth Shore. They're the ones who run the business, manage the company, are involved in the day-to-day operations of the gaming license entities. Nancy has no involvement. She is completely passive and doesn't really want to get involved. She lives in Colorado. Lucky Silver Gaming has been negotiating with Nancy for a while now, but because of the economic interest and because the companies don't have a ton of extra cash, actually buying out the membership interests of Bruce's estate isn't viable right now. So there's an ongoing negotiation to take her out via warrants, where warrants will be exchanged for her membership interest. Those negotiations are ongoing. I expect they'll be concluded within a number of months, but we need this temporary approval in the interim. And with that, I'll open up for questions.
Well, I think everything is very thorough in our materials and what you presented to the board, but I'm going to open it up for any questions, if anybody has any.
I don't have any questions.
I remember this matter coming before us in 2021. I don't think that anything has changed. And again, my condolences.
Thank you.
You could pass those along, and For the record, I think the Golden Tiki on Spring Mountain is very cool. Good atmosphere, and I have no reservations. I'm ready to move forward with this one.
I'm glad you've done the research.
I have due diligence. It's my job.
Mr. Gumbel, like echoing the comments, I have no issues with the application before us. I hope it works out for Mrs. Dyfik. I know it's a difficult situation for the family.
I am ready for a motion. Thank you.
With that, I would move for approval of non-restricted item number 1 as read into the record by Madam Secretary and as recommended by the Gaming Control Board.
Any discussion or comments on the motion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
And there are none opposed. Thank you very much.
And thanks to Agent Bartholomew. As always, he's a consummate professional.
Thank you. Isn't it nice to take all the compliments for all the investigation that's done when we had nothing to do with it? It's wonderful. All right, Madam Secretary, please read in non-restricted number 2.
Non-restricted number 2 is the application of Matthew Primer for licensure as a key employee of Aristocrat Technologies, Inc. The recommendation of the Gaming Control Board is for approval.
Yeah. Good morning.
Good morning, Madam Chair, members of the Commission, Madam Secretary, A.G. Burnett with the law firm of McDonald Carano. Here with me today is Mr. Matt Primer. He's the Chief Product Officer for Aristocrat Technologies, Inc. He appeared before the board and went through his personal background. He's happy to do the same for you today if you'd like, or he's also happy to answer any questions you may have. He's coming in as a key employee.
Well,
I'll introduce him now.
Yeah, we would love for him to introduce himself, and if he wants to give us an abbreviated introduction, knowing that we have seen you before, even though you may not have seen us.
Thank you. Thank you, Chair Togliatti. Yes, and thank you, AG. Thank you, commissioners. I guess the abbreviated version, I was born into the gaming industry. My mum and dad ran a sales and service organisation just south of Sydney in Australia. Quite a lot of talk about Australia this morning too, which I wasn't expecting. And so I started in the industry formally on the 3rd of November 2000 as a slot technician, and have worked through the industry for the last 22 years, which makes me sound really old now. So I didn't think I was that old, but I've got a double degree in accounting and human resources. I've worked for Ainsworth Game Technology, Shuffle Master, and the last almost 8.5 years at Aristocrat, and in multiple roles, the last probably 5 or 6 years, specifically in product here in North America. And since I think January of 2020, I've been the Chief Product Officer of the gaming division, and licensed in quite a few jurisdictions over the last 22 years. And really, again, just very excited to be before you. I take my licensing very seriously, and to be licensed in Nevada would be a great privilege. So with that, I guess any questions from the Commission?
Well, I will start with Commissioner.
Thank you. I have a very serious question for you. The games that Aristocrat puts out, the Globe,
yes,
is it as popular in other jurisdictions outside of the United States as it seems to be in the United States? Or is that just a function of it has just taken that sector by storm?
It is very popular all over the world, especially in Australia and here in North America. It's making its way around other parts of the world, but we're very, very lucky to have amazing talent. Part of my organisation, we have about 1,300 people in the gaming, what we call D&D, split across India, Australia, and North America predominantly. Just an amazingly talented team. We have 10 or 12 different studios, depending on how you define them, in cities all over the world, two in Atlanta, two in Reno, multiple here in Las Vegas, and also in Sydney. We're very, very lucky, and I'm personally very lucky to be surrounded, Commissioner Cohen, by very talented people who make amazing products. And I think, as we always try to do, entertain our customers, and especially here in the state of Nevada.
When I have to ask about a particular game, your background is impeccable, and I commend you and the company. I support your application wholeheartedly.
I don't have any questions.
I was just going to ask, how are the kids adapting?
Better than mum
It's
and dad.
different for them, right? Better than mom.
It is. We first moved here in September of 2014, which was, I'm not sure if it was harder. It's hard to remember. We had a 2-year-old and a 3-month-old. So definitely harder on my wife, Casey, who's amazing, and definitely the most talented member of our family. So we're very lucky to have her support us, and she's not working at the moment, as you can see from our application. The kids are amazing. We're really proud of how they've adjusted. The school years are very different. They're at Henderson International, which they love. It's an amazing school, and they've really applied themselves and are thriving. So we're very proud of them. And our youngest, Hudson, is an American citizen, was born here in Las Vegas. So Las Vegas is a big part of our lives and will continue to be.
So does Australia have like an automatic dual citizenship?
Yes,
that you don't have to worry?
Yes, he is an American citizen and an Australian citizen by descent, which he reminds his brothers, especially at Soccer World Cup time and at the Olympics, things like that.
Commissioner Brown, do you have anything?
I love your backstory. You've come a long way since you were working with your parents and fixing slot machines, I think, and they've changed quite a bit. And I love that you are in charge of creation and ideation. What a fun job. It sounds really exciting. And I will say that I attended the G2E conference and I checked out the Aristocrat booth and just was blown away. And some of it I can't even talk about. I heard it was secret, but it was just impressive. And they just care so much, and they're all about being creative and putting out really interesting things all the time. And I think they're just right on top of creation and ideation, thanks to people like you. And you have quite a few people, I think, that have to report to you. I think you have about 2,000 employees that report to you and 12 game studios. That's a lot. Do you sleep? What's your schedule like?
Not much. Luckily, I don't need a lot of sleep. No, I'm very lucky. Thank you, Commissioner Brown. I do a job that I love. I'm very passionate about it. It's been a huge part of my life, and I couldn't imagine doing anything else. And as I said earlier, I'm surrounded by amazingly talented people who make people like us look way smarter than we are. So there is just so much love and passion in our organisation for what we do, and it's obviously a huge part of the economy here in the state of Nevada. So we do feel very close to the state.
And I think your background in HR and accounting is really conducive to the specific role that you have, because it's so multifaceted in what you're doing and the number of people that you have to deal with that report to you. So I think you're very well suited to the position, and I have no areas of concern at all. Thank you.
Thank you. I guess just final words. Thank you for your kind words as well. It does give me shivers, especially when you commend my background. It's something that my family, my father in particular, has really from day one. How you conduct yourself, your reputation, and your background, and the way that regulators and others see you is the most important thing. So thank you for recognizing that, and thank you for your time, and a big thank you to Charlotte Ballinger and the investigative team. It was not easy through COVID. As I said, this started quite a while ago, and for most of it, I was on the other side of the world. So the team have been very supportive. So thank you.
We're happy you're now here.
Yes, thank you. So if there are no additional comments or questions, I think this is ripe for a motion.
I'm prepared to make a motion, Chair. I move for approval of non-restricted item number 2 as recommended by the Gaming Control Board and as read into the record by Madam Secretary.
Any discussion on the motion? There being none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
And there are none opposed. Thank you and congratulations.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Mr. Burnett, was that one of your more difficult appearances?
The Aussies always are.
Madam Secretary, please read in non-restricted number 3.
Non-restricted number 3 is the application of United Coin Machine Company doing business as Century Gaming Technologies, doing business at Tahoe Biltmore for a non-restricted gaming license. The recommendation of the Nevada Gaming Control Board is for approval with conditions as noted on the agenda.
Good morning.
Good morning, Chair, members of the Commission, and Madam Secretary.
My name is Debbie Cornine. I am the Director of Compliance for Century Gaming Technologies, and we will be the slot route operator conducting this one-day operation. Joining me from Carson and at the podium now is Tom Jacobson. He is the Vice President of Development for EKN Development Group, the operator of the Tahoe Biltmore. This application is strictly to preserve the non-restricted gaming rights at the property so that the operator has an opportunity to have gaming in the future. And I'm here to answer any questions about the operation. And then Mr. Jacobson is prepared to answer questions regarding the future of the Biltmore.
Good morning, sir.
Good morning. Thank you. Tom Jacobson from EKN.
Thank you. I'm going to go ahead and look to my right first. Commissioner Solis Rainey.
I just had a brief questions. I mean, generally when you're doing this, it's on a vacant lot in a tent, it seems like. So for this one, since the property's there, are you doing the one day inside the property?
No, we will not. They're undergoing a lot of demolition.
Okay.
So the theory is that we will have a very secure trailer that meets all the necessary requirements on the property. And we will conduct the operation in a trailer similar to what we do here in Vegas, like at other properties.
Do you generally have anybody show up for those?
No. No, we do not.
Are there facilities and such if people were to show up and want to play for the day?
Yes. No, we'll have it set up that it is ready to, appear like a very, very small casino.
Well, I mean, restrooms and that.
Oh,
kind of
yes,
thing.
yes. We'll have, and again, Mr. Jacobson can speak to that because he will be in charge of making sure all those facilities are there and operational.
But if you have a porta potty, maybe that's why no one's coming.
And I'm certain it's going to be a porta potty.
Then I'm not coming. Have a good one.
Okay, Commissioner Brown, Cohen.
I'm excited about the Waldorf Astoria. Are we still on schedule for the 2028 opening? Can you tell us what's in store for us with any detail?
Well, thank you. That's a softball for a developer question. So thank you. Yes, we are on schedule right now for a late 27 opening. That would be the end of the year in 2027. And as you can imagine, the complexity of this project could push that out in construction, but we're optimistic that that would be our opening date is on that date.
Well, I'm very excited about it. I have absolutely no questions. It's pretty straightforward. You'll be playing 16 slot machines for 1 8-hour period on March 31st, 2023. Is that the date?
I believe that is the date. There was some discussion about it being on the 22nd. Tom, have we confirmed the 23rd as the operating date?
We can make either one work. So
It doesn't matter. I just from
Yeah.
my observations when I saw the board presentation, and then I understand there'll be the quarterly 1-day 8-hour operations after that.
Absolutely. And we've already scheduled the first one day to be done in April.
And that's just one slot machine.
That's just one game.
To maintain the grandfather clause status.
Correct. Mhm.
I
And
have no
that's-
other questions.
Oh, I'm sorry. I was
No,
just
go
going to
ahead,
say
please.
that's to be in compliance with the washoe condition.
Yep. Thank you.
All right, there being no additional questions or comments for either of them, it appears. It looks like it's ripe for motion.
Thank you, Chair Tagliati. I move for approval of non-restricted item number 3 as read into the record by Madam Secretary and recommended by the Gaming Control Board.
Any discussion on the motion? There being none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
And it
Thank-
appears there are none opposed. Thank you.
And thank you very much. And I do want to also recognize Ashlenberg, the agent on this case, as always. Yeah, I have, the utmost respect for all the agents and appreciate all the hard work they always do on all of our cases. And I don't always get the opportunity to say that because we're quite often on consent agenda. So I just wanted to pass that on. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Have a good
Thank you,
day.
sir.
thank you.
Madam Secretary, could you please read in non-restricted number 4?
Non-restricted number 4 is the application of William Hill, Nevada 1, doing business as William Hill Race and Sportsbook, doing business as Jim Kelly's Tahoe Nugget Racebook and Sports Pool, doing business at Jim Kelly's Tahoe Nugget Casino for a non-restricted gaming license. Recommendation of the Gaming Control Board is for approval. I believe we have a disclosure on this item.
Thank you. William Hill Sportsbook is adverse in an open matter, where my law firm, Lewis Roca, is counsel in unrelated matters. That has nothing to do with why you're here today, and I'm not personally involved. I have no pecuniary interest in the outcome of this agenda item, and I do not believe the independence of judgment of a reasonable person in my position would be affected by the relationship described on the record, and I therefore intend to participate. Thank you.
Good morning, Madam Chair,
Good morning.
members of the commission, Madam Secretary, AG Burnett with the law firm of McDonald Carano. This is, as Madam Secretary read into the record, a kiosk location at Jim Kelly's Tahoe Nugget, which is up at Incline, actually Crystal Bay, next to Incline. It's a non-restricted location. Here with me is Mr. Mark Keller, the Director of Nevada Operations. Should you have any questions, we've reviewed the conditions and believe we'll be fully compliant with those. And other than that, I'll open it up to questions.
I'm sorry, Mr. Burnett, I didn't catch the name for.
Mr. Keller, Mark Keller, he's Director of Nevada Operations for the company.
Perfect. I had just a couple brief questions with respect to the property. Has
Sure.
the surveillance system been put in place? I know there was an issue with that previously.
Yeah, Mark Keller with William Hill. The property is installing surveillance right now. And
I'm sorry.
the property is installing surveillance currently.
Okay.
They handle the surveillance on this location. And obviously we will be waiting for the surveillance approval before any intention to operate, which we are targeting for February 1st.
Okay, so I apologize. Maybe I didn't catch your title. Are you with William Hill or are you with the property?
I'm with William Hill, Director of Nevada Operations for
Do
William.
we have anybody from the property?
We do not.
Okay. Then my other question was not one that would be relevant to Mr. Keller. So thank you.
Commissioner Brown?
So welcome, sorry, I shouldn't be so rude, apologize. So there's no flat fee and no revenue, it's a flat fee, no revenue share for this one?
There's no rev share. It's a straight flat fee.
Okay, thank you. And then the kiosk can pay out up to 2,000 and anything more, you have to go across the way?
You're correct.
Okay. And then there's downtime from about 1 and 4 in the morning?
Correct. Our end of day process takes place between 1 and 4 each night.
Okay. It's pretty straightforward. I have no further questions, no areas of concern. Thank you.
I don't think Commissioner Cohen nor I have any additional questions or concerns. So at this time, it appears it's ripe for a motion.
Chair, I'd like to move forward with approval of the non-restricted item number 4 as recommended by the Gaming Control Board and is read into the record by Madam Secretary.
And there were conditions, correct? I can't remember.
There were conditions and I understand they're acceptable.
They are acceptable.
Okay, so we have a motion then. Is there any discussion or comments on the motion? There being none, all in favor, say aye.
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 And there are none opposed. Okay, thank you very much for your appearance today. Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We're now moving to restricted items held out for discussion. Madam Secretary, if you could please read in restricted number 1.
Restricted number 1 is the application of Mary Gallagher for temporary licensure as a personal representative of the estate of Thomas Edmund Gallagher, as noted on the agenda. It is also the application of PLG2 LLC doing business as Porchlight 2 for a transfer of interest, as noted on the agenda. The recommendation of the Gaming Control Board is for approval. I believe we have a disclosure on this item.
I do. Thank you. Kevin Gallagher is adverse in 2 open unrelated matters involving a client of Lewis Roca, the firm where I'm a partner, in which matters I'm not personally involved. I have no pecuniary interest in the outcome of these agenda items. And I do not believe the independence of judgment of a reasonable person in my position would be affected by the relationship described on the record, and I therefore intend to participate. Thank you.
Good morning.
Thank you. Good morning. Kelsey Benu with McDonald Carano for the record. Good morning, Chairwoman Tagliati, Member Solis Rainey, Member Cohen, Member Brown, and Madam Secretary. Today I'm here on behalf of PLG2 LLC, DBA Porchlight 2, and KTG Group Inc., DBA The Porchlight Grill. It's an honor to be here with you this morning. Usually I'm appearing via video from Carson City, so nice to see you today in person. So I believe that you likely watched the Gaming Control Board meeting or have the transcript in front of you, so I'll keep it a bit more brief than I did in front of the board. Today, there are a few applications before you. These applications are in furtherance of family and estate planning of the Gallaghers. First is Miss Gallagher's application requesting that she be approved as temporary personal representative of the estate of her late husband, Thomas Edmund Gallagher. The estate currently holds a 75% interest in Porchlight 2, and Kevin Gallagher, a currently licensed member, holds the remaining 25% interest. Second is an application for a transfer of interest of the estate's 75% interest to Kevin Gallagher. And then finally, there's a request to withdraw the transfer of interest application pertaining to KTG Group, Inc., DBA The Porchlight Grill. With that, I'd like to maybe let the applicants introduce themselves or open the floor to questions, whatever you may prefer.
Why don't you step forward, because it would be nice to officially meet you. Good morning. Thank you for your patience.
Oh, that's fine. Good morning to you, all of you.
And then
you want to state your name for the record?
Oh, sorry. Mary Kay Gallagher.
Thank you.
Hi, Kevin Gallagher. Good morning.
Good morning. I'm going to go ahead and open it up for any questions because we did see your appearance before the board, so we are familiar with the background on this, and I think it's very straightforward. So I'm just going to open it up if you have any questions.
I don't have any questions. You answered them during the board meeting. I understand the withdrawal was because you couldn't come to terms on that second location. Okay, so is that been closed? Is that already closed?
Yes.
Okay.
Sorry, Kevin Gallagher. For the record, yes, that's exactly. Couldn't come to agreement with the land.
Yeah, no.
Unfortunately, we really did want to continue. It just didn't work out, and the clock had run out.
All right. I don't have any questions. Thank you for being here. It's a pleasure to see you in person. And I would pass to my colleagues.
Commissioner Cohen or Brown?
I have nothing. Thank you.
Thank you for appearing today. We appreciate that. It's good to see you in person. I usually see you on a little box.
Yes.
It's such a pleasure. And Ms. Gallagher, I just wanted to give you my condolences about the passing of your husband. I know it's not easy. You were together since high school, over 55 years, which is huge. So we know it's not easy, but thank you for coming before us. And did you do research at Harvard Medical School?
I did.
Could you talk to me about that? That sounds fascinating.
I did. After I retired from being a flight attendant, I did research in the statistical department, and it was right across the street from the hospital, which was convenient because by that time we were expecting our first child. I was there for about 6 months, and then I became a full-time mother for the rest of my life.
That's the hardest job, so thank you.
Oh,
for
much
doing that.
harder, unrewarding.
And Mr. Gallagher, if I could just have you approach briefly, it's my understanding that you were working with R&R Advertising. What was your involvement in the What Happens in Vegas Days in Vegas?
I was part of the sponsorship and promotional campaign. I was the manager of that department, which was it was a lot of fun. I got to work with Red Bull. We gave away trips. We would call up radio stations, and most of the larger markets are going to be New York, Boston, Houston, LA. I believe Phoenix was in there. And one time I actually got to fly and represent the city and did a whole street campaign where we took over and kind of did a whole guerrilla marketing at the Grammys. Unfortunately, at that time of year, it's really, really cold in New York. But it was fun because we had these blinking hats that you kind of see on New Year's Eve now, but we had done it back in the past. This is over 15 years ago.
You were ahead of your time.
Yeah, it was fun.
Well, I think it sounds like a fun experience. And I also wanted to note that I think you opened Porchlight 1 during the recession in 2007, and you've managed to keep it open for almost 15 years to the day.
Right.
And that is not a small feat. So I just wanted to recognize your commitment
very much. I
and your
appreciate it.
dedication. And the timing was tough. And I know that Porchlight 2 continues to thrive and just a wonderful partner to the community.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Thank you for coming today. I have no areas of concern.
All right, so at this time, it appears it's ripe for a motion, and I would just point out that because I'm sure this seems rather rigorous to come here twice and say that, same things, but that's the way our system is set up. And I never know because of open meeting laws, who's going to have what questions. So we do have to have you come in. And so we really appreciate you being here. So I thank you for that. Does anyone wish to make a motion at this time?
Sure. I'm happy to move for approval of restricted item number 1 as read into the record by Madam Secretary and recommended by the Game Control Board.
Any discussion or comments on the motion? There being none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
And there are none opposed. Thank you very much.
Thank you
Thank you,
so much.
counsel.
We would just like to also thank Agent Jasmine Jeffries' work on the application. She did a wonderful job. So thank you. Have a good afternoon.
Thank you, you too.
Thank
all
you.
for the approval. Thank you for your time.
All right, so that brings us to restricted number 2.
Restricted number 2 is the application of Aces C-Store 1 LLC doing business as Aces Convenience Store for a restricted gaming license and the application of Colton Ailman for licensure as a member and manager. The recommendation of the Gaming Control Board is for approval with conditions as noted on the agenda.
Hello, good morning, guys.
Good morning.
Now afternoon, I guess.
Not yet.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Not yet.
Not yet.
Are you guys? I'm here on behalf of the Aces Convenience Store.
Could you state your name for the record?
Colton Norbert Alleman.
Thank you.
Sadly, Serena Choi was my representative. She has shockingly passed away. I just found out yesterday. So I'm sorry for my informalities, but
Very
if you
sorry to hear that.
have any questions, I'm open.
Well, let's start with Commissioner Brown.
Sorry to hear about your counsel. She was quite lovely and a pleasure to have her appear before us. And
Yes.
I'm glad you came.
Thank you
Anyway,
very much.
I don't really have a lot of issues. Just understand that you're registered for the compliance course in February, and you're going to take
February.
that.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, it's important. And you're still scheduled to open this month.
Yes.
Okay. Any delays? Any issues?
We are having a little bit of issues with the backup of the Southern Nevada Health District. So I would say no later than February 5th will be open.
Okay.
But the store is completely finished.
That's wonderful. Congratulations.
Thank you so
And
much.
then I understand that you did a short stint with Click Hospitality.
Yes.
And I think you were the operations manager. Which projects were you involved in while you were
Green
there?
Street and the Palms. So it was short-lived because of COVID, but it was a great experience and I learned a ton, doing an opening as well as a new casino. So it was a great experience to learn.
Oh, that's excellent. And then you have the $100,000 loan from your father.
Yes.
And that's a no interest loan, correct? Very generous.
Yes.
11-year no interest loan. You can't get a better deal than that.
Yes.
And then 10,000 comes from Sartini Gaming for the signing advance. Is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. I have no questions for you. This is pretty straightforward.
Sorry to interrupt you. Can you, when you said backup with Southern Nevada Health District, I'm just curious, what are you referring to?
I'm just
Problem
submitting all the plans right now. They just have to.
They're behind?
Yeah, it's kind of. I was submitted late, and then I'm just waiting to hear back.
I just was wondering what you were specifically referring to, so I was just clarifying. Okay, I don't have any questions.
I did have one question.
Yes.
I noticed you've been going to school, a number of different schools from 2013 to 2017. How many credits do you have left before you can graduate?
I have about 2 years left.
Okay.
It is something I eventually want to get done, but once I got home and started working, and especially started working for my family, it's kind of been pushed on the back.
Understood. I just saw there was like from 2013 to 2017. I'm thinking you should be really close by now.
Yes, yes,
I noticed that, but that's fine. I was just curious.
totally fine.
I encourage you to do that
Absolutely.
for you. Thank you.
I guess I should ask, do you intend to, as going forward, I mean, I know it's soon and you just found out, but have another gaming consultant or counsel?
I'm actually working on it right now because I am going for my tavern license on the 7th. So I'm
Makes sense.
going to make sure it's all taken care of, but the investigation is done. So from what I understand, I do need counsel and I'm working on that now.
All right, if there's nothing else, I believe Commissioner Cohen has a
Oh, I'm sorry. I had a couple questions for you.
Sure.
Just real quick. With respect to the operations, how involved are you in the day-to-day?
For
For
all the
ACES?
taverns?
Yeah.
Very, very I would say every single day I'm at every location pretty much besides the Mesquite one. That one takes me about 45 minutes to get to. So unless there's a huge issue, I probably get there once a week to every 2 weeks.
With the local ones, do you just rotate amongst them or do you
Yeah,
do
I'm
one day at one day at
my
another?
office is at the first one on the west location, so there every day and then back and forth between all of them. And the new convenience store is 7 minutes away from my office as well. So
Perfect. Well, I would echo Commissioner Brown's comments regarding graduating. Don't put that on the back burner too
absolutely.
long. It's good, especially since you are working for your family, Tom. They have to give you a break on that.
Yep.
With respect to the conditions, you're registered for the seminar, and have you satisfied the surveillance system?
I'm waiting for somebody to contact me, but
Okay, so they'll
yep,
okay, so they'll get that inspected. But the surveillance system
it's
is in
completely
place.
done.
It
Yeah,
just needs
it's
to be
ready to go.
inspected. Perfect. All right, I didn't have any other questions. Thank you.
I have no questions. Prepared to make a motion.
Just briefly for the surveillance system inspection, I know your counsel's not able to be with you clearly. You might want to just follow up and call because it's a very short window of 60 days
Yep,
after the
absolutely.
application. I just want to keep that on your mind to make sure that doesn't create any issue for you because it is
Absolutely.
one
Should
of
I
the conditions.
contact Jasmine Jeffries for that, or who can I contact to make sure that's taken care of?
Senior Agent Jeffries can direct you to who you should talk to in the enforcement division. I'm trying to remember who the agent in charge of that and the inspections are, but I would go with Jasmine. Okay, I'll change that to Enforcement Agent Michelle Campbell.
Thank you very much.
Okay. Do you have a motion?
I have a motion. I would move for approval of restricted agenda item number 2 is read into the record by Madam Secretary and is conditioned by the Nevada Gaming Control Board.
All right, any discussion on the motion? There being none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
And there are none opposed. Thank you very much.
Thank you guys. I appreciate everything. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Good luck.
All right, Madam Secretary, please read in restricted number 3.
Restricted number 3 is the application of Tahoe Tavern and Grill LLC to receive a percentage of gaming revenue from Sartini Gaming LLC doing business at Tahoe Tavern and Grill. It is also the applications of Wendy Thoreau and David Thoreau for licensure as a member and manager. The recommendation of the Gaming Control Board is for approval.
Good morning still.
Morning,
Good
Madam
morning.
Chair. Members.
Would you like to make an affirmative presentation and introduce yourselves? How would you like to proceed?
Sure. My name is David Taru. This is my wife, Wendy Taru. And about 2.5 years ago, we decided to open a restaurant in South Lake Tahoe. And during that time, we were approached to do a space lease. And we really didn't know at the time what we were getting ourselves into or what the expectation was, let's put it that way, from consumers. And the restaurant has grown. And we're actually doing a little expansion, and we're establishing ourselves in the community and so forth. And we decided, okay, let's move to a restricted license, So we started this process about 1.5 years ago, and here we are.
All right, thank you. We appreciate that. It's nice to meet both of you.
Nice to meet you as well.
So at this time, we have our investigation materials and we've heard your commentary before the board. So I'm going to open it up for questions. I'm going to start with whoever would like to start. Commissioner Solis Rainey, do you have any?
Yeah, it's just with respect to the property. It sounds like you spend a lot of time there, Wendy. Tell me a little bit about what your day is like.
Well, it starts off with paperwork because I'm uninterrupted, and then it goes into being on site during business hours. I've been in the restaurant business since I was 17. I've done a lot of things in the hospitality. I've even owned my own event planning business in LA for 10 years. I'm well-rounded when it comes to the restaurant, and I know that you have to be present every day because the shenanigans get really difficult. So I'm there constantly, you know, and the struggles of employees, you know, not coming to work. And so every day is a challenge keeping employees, especially in that area. So I just make myself present as
You
much
just
as
cover wherever you're needed.
yeah, and I can't sit still very often, and my kids are in college now, so I was talked into this by my husband because he said, "What are you going to do?" Even though I had a job, he said, "You can't sit still." I mean, I coached cheerleading, I was on the board, and so that's what was the deciding factor, and then getting out of California. So, with all of that said, here we are.
Sounds like you've had some good success. And yeah, it's are you enjoying Tahoe?
I love it. The cold I can kind of do without, but everything else I love. It's really cold.
Are you worried about the shenanigans that are happening while you're with us?
Yeah.
Pretty much. Yeah.
I think I'm well covered today.
What are is the tavern open just certain hours? What are the
So
hours?
we're open 7 days a week from 11, and as of right now, 9. In the summer, we open until 10, just because, it's just busier. It's getting dark earlier, it tends to be slow down around 8:30. So we switched our hours to 9.
Okay. So you do more of a lunch and dinner.
Lunch and dinner, yeah.
Obviously, nightlife.
Yeah, we're more of a family oriented restaurant and stuff where, it's not like a bar or a evening.
Yeah, it sounded like you've really created a niche for yourself with
Yeah.
the brightening the place up and
Yep.
Yeah,
making
added
it welcoming
windows.
towards families.
Yeah, when we went there and looked at other places in our area, those places don't allow children. You have to be 21 and over. And being in the restaurant business, I just didn't want to be just a gaming place or just a restaurant or just, certain age. We have everything, including TVs for sports, our food, we have high ratings on our food, and my chef is born and raised in Tahoe, and he's amazing. So we have elevated food, especially with the places that are around us. We're definitely above. I feel like we're above them when it comes to the food.
Yeah.
I mean,
You're the best. Go ahead, say it.
we're the best.
You should
Yeah,
plug
yeah.
yourself.
I mean, we were nominated for 14 awards for
Best of Tahoe this
Best
year.
of Tahoe. So and
We're the
that's-
highest nominated over Edgewood.
Yeah.
For everything from customer service, cocktails, food.
Yeah.
So I'm kind of really proud of what we've done thus far.
Yeah.
Sounds like you have a lot to be proud of. And that's about as much nightlife as I can handle.
Me too.
so.
I can wake up early. I just need to take a nap.
Well, I don't have any other questions. Your backgrounds were clean. And, I just wanted to hear a little bit from you. It's a pleasure to see you in person. If anybody has any questions, I would pass to them.
I just had one quick question, not that it has anything to do with the price of eggs on this one. How did your wife end up with 51% and you ended up with 49%?
Well, happy wife, happy life. Yeah.
Good answer.
Who's smarter now?
Yeah.
Equally smart.
I like sleeping with my eyes closed at night.
With her working 80 hours a week.
Yeah, I deserve that extra
Oh,
percent.
no question, no question. She reminds me all the time that I have to do my 49% of the work.
Well, it is such a pleasure to meet you. Thank you for coming here
Thank
to
you.
visit with us. We can get to know you. I think it's so sweet that your dad built out, I think, your office space. So it's a nice, cozy
He
place. But you
did.
probably spent a lot of time there working 80 hours a week. And
Yes.
it's no accident, though, that it's successful because your hard work and dedication clearly are paying off.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
And you've been through a lot, I think, pandemic, fire, and you're still going strong.
We opened in the pandemic, yeah.
Right.
So it has been a challenge. It was the hardest. It wasn't the decision to actually purchase food was harder than going out there and opening a restaurant because I wasn't sure if we were going to get closed down and the food was, going to go to waste. It was
course. Yeah.
definitely a hard decision, but
Unprecedented. Now, in Las Vegas, for me to go to a restaurant on a Friday night without a reservation, it's pretty much impossible now. There are very few places I can go. I have to think ahead. How busy are you? Is it like filled up reservations? How's business right now?
Actually, we're extremely busy right now. Reservations, I'm learning in Tahoe, are not a big thing. With the younger generation, they're on their phone, they look on Yelp, they look on social media, and then they show up. I think one of the reasons why we're successful is that we are able to take in larger groups. And in Tahoe, that's a lot. So we do get a lot of rehearsal dinners. We do get a lot of large groups. And they walk in, it's crazy to me that, that 15 or 18 people will walk in without even a phone call, but it happens every day. This year was the first time since we've opened this past they call it shoulder season. And it's in between, where you can't go on the lake, but yet there's no skiing yet. So it's kind of those slower seasons. That was the first time we've experienced it. Other than that, we've been busy since the day we opened.
Well, keep up the good work. I'm proud of you. And again, it's a pleasure to meet you. Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Okay, well, who would like to make a motion?
I'm prepared to make a motion, Chair. Thank you. I move for approval of restricted item number 4 is recommended by the Gaming Control Board and is read into the record by Madam Secretary.
Any discussion on the motion?
Number 3.
Oh,
did I say 4? Sorry, number 3.
Yes, number 3.
Thank you so much.
So this is a motion on restricted number 3. Any discussion or comments? There being none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
And there are none opposed. Thank you
Thank
very
you
much.
so much. It was
And good luck.
pleasure
Felt like
being
we
here.
didn't bring enough people with us.
No.
The whole room emptied out. I was like, oh my God, people just kept
You're at
standing
the
up.
restaurant. It's a group of 18 waiting for you there.
Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Good luck.
All right, next on our agenda are the administrative reports. I'll start with Chair Watkins.
The next meeting.
Regulation. Where is that? Am I? No.
It's in our book. It's 22-1202. We're not doing that today.
There's no regulation on this agenda.
Okay.
There's not.
I just saw a proposed amendment, but if I'm happy to skip that.
The next meeting of the Nevada Gaming Control Board will be a one-day meeting on February 8th in Las Vegas. Non-restricted will start at 9 a.m. Restricted will start at 11 a.m. There will be 6 non-restricted items and 12 restricted. Thank you.
Thank you. Anything from our Attorney General today?
Nothing today, Chair. Thank you.
Thank you. Madam Secretary, let's close with our last agenda item, public comments.
This item is placed on the agenda to give the public an opportunity to comment on gaming-related matters.
I'll first go to Carson City. Anyone wishing to make a public comment, please step forward to the podium. There being no one. Here in Las Vegas, anyone wishing to make public comment? There being no one. That will close our public comment section. This concludes the Nevada Gaming Commission meeting for the month of January. We are adjourned.